Hare Krishna. So let us offer prayers to Guru Parampara and then start. Om Ajnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschathyate Shatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratvishe Namaha. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Mokam karoti vachalam pangum lankayate girim yat kripatamaham vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam. Hare Krishna. Let's offer prayers to Lord Krishna, the speaker of Bhagavadgita. Prapanna parijataya Totra Vetraika Parnaye Jnana Mudraya Krishnaya Gita Amrita Duhe Namaha. Let's quickly recite the shlokas which we have to memorize. Everyone can unmute and chant together. Karpanya dosho pahata svabhava Rachami tvam dharma sammudha cheta Yashreyasya nishtam broti tanme Shishyasteham shati mam tvam prapannam Dehinosmin yatha dehe kaushalam yauvanam jara Tha deham tatra namosyati Na jayate mriyate va kadachin Nayam bhutva bhavita va na bhuyah Ajo nityam na hanyate hanyamane Bhogaishvarya prasanam apasya cheta Vasayat Prakrite kriyamana Evam parampara Ajarshayo Yogo nashta parantapa. So last session we had started the shloka test. 5 devotees had given the recitation test. So today also we will continue that test. And as you know, the second part will start once we almost touch 6th chapter. But nonetheless, we should practice. So I want to introduce those shlokas from now on. So the 2 shlokas out of the rest, second part, 6 shlokas, first 2 we will see today. Very famous. Repeat after me. Paritranaya sadhunam
Paritrānaya sadhūnām
Nāshāya ca dushkritām Dharma samsthapanarthāya Sambhavami yuge yuge Janma karma cha me divyam
Janma karma cha
Janma
me
karma cha me
divyam.
divyam.
Evam yo vetti tattvataha
Evam yo vitta
Vittataha.
yaktva deham punarjanma
Tyaktva deham
Deham
punarjanma
punarjanma.
naiti mameti sorjuna.
naiti mameti so Arjuna.
Arjuna.
So in the further sessions, future sessions, we will also practice these two along with the next set of two. So like this, we have another 4 more after this. So that will be the shlokas for this unit. Of course, we will do this test once we start 6th chapter, and those dates also will be disclosed to all of you to choose your slots. So last time, before the weekend, sorry, before we met last time, that's Friday, we had come up till 15, 14 or 15 shlokas. Someone please confirm.
14, Prabhuji.
14.
14,
Yeah,
Prabhu.
14, I believe. Yes, 14. Okay, we will go to that. So this chapter, which is called Transcendental Knowledge, sometimes it's called Jnana Yoga, Jnana Karma Sannyasa Yoga. Different names are called by different authors or commentators. Prabhupada called Transcendental Knowledge. So we have seen the first section so far. The last shloka of the first section today, we will see that, which is a summary. So the first section is very much the core of this chapter. It's transcendental knowledge about Krishna, where Krishna directly says his supreme position, why he comes to this world, what is the purpose, what are those situations which kind of invoke him to appear in this world, and what does he do when he comes here, all that, and what's the benefit one receives by understanding about his appearance and activities. So we had seen that there are primarily two important benefits. One, it is told, is in the Janma Karma Chame Divyam Shloka, it is told that one will basically be freed from the cycle of birth and death, and he will be attaining the spiritual world, that is love of Lord, love to God. So these two are very clearly promised in 9 and 10. So in the last session, we did this series from 11 to 14 also, where Krishna very interestingly explained about these 3 traps for the jiva, which one should be very careful to not fall into. The one is raga, strong material attachment; bhaya, fear of spiritual identity; and krodha, a frustration, anger, which has arisen due to some hopelessness in spiritual understandings. So these one should rise above and follow the previous authorities, that was told actually in that shloka. So going ahead, Krishna also explained that even if people don't come to him, still there is a system which he has made, which is the system of demigod worship, where to whom they go for fulfilling their material desires. They think that process is quick, but they fail to understand that the benedictions given are temporary and material. So different jivas have different types of desires. So is it Krishna who places them in a particular category based on their desires? No. Krishna has made the framework, which is called Varnashrama system. He told this Chatur Varnyam Maya Srishtam. But he himself is above all this. Though he has created this system, he is not affected, or he is not the doer, he is the non-doer. That is very clearly explained. And what are the different modes predominant in each of these 4 divisions was also explained. So we had seen this, and last time we also saw this 14th shloka, which we will read quickly and go from there. So please, all of you, open the 14th shloka in your book. So we will see the translation of it. So this is also telling about Krishna not being affected by the material modes of nature, or whatever he has created, he's always beyond it. So this is very clearly explained. So someone please read the translation of this.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, I'll read.
Yes, please. Yeah.
There is no work that affects me, nor do I aspire for the fruits of action. One who understands this truth above me also does not become entangled in the fruitive reactions of work.
Yeah. So it's very interesting, the nature of Lord's presence in this world. The Lord, whenever he appears in this world, which is called technically avatar, Prabhupada told that in one of the purports we studied, avatar, avatarati iti avatar, one who descends from spiritual atmosphere to material world, it is that personality is called avatar. So there are many types of avatar, last time we had seen, but all of them in general, they are not affected by the material world's workings. So in Shastras, in especially Srimad Bhagavatam, there is one very beautiful comparison made to how the Lord functions in this world. The comparison is given to a spider. A spider, very interestingly, it makes the web. When it makes the web, how does it make it? Does it need something as an ingredient to make that web? How does it make the web?
The saliva, Prabhuji.
From the saliva. It doesn't depend on anything beyond it or external to it. It makes the web. And then it is moving in the web, but it doesn't get caught. And at the end, when it feels that the purpose is fulfilled, it also withdraws the web. So like that Lord is. In fact, this question, this is asked as a part of question by Narada to Brahma. This world functions so wonderfully. Are you that spider, O Brahma? He was having doubt, Narada Muni. Actually, it represents us. And he was asking. Then Brahma told, no, it's only and only Supreme Lord Vishnu who is that ultimate truth, who creates, maintains, annihilates, withdraws, and yet doesn't become affected by anything of this world. So Lord is exactly putting forth here his position in this world. Whenever he descends to this world, he is never affected by the modes of nature. So this we had seen. And Krishna further explains. So of course, here Prabhupada told about how the king is not subject to the laws he makes for his state. Similarly, the owner of a company or an establishment is not responsible for the workers' wrongdoings. Similarly, Lord is not responsible for the jiva's wrongdoings. He just facilitates their desires if they deserve it properly. So this was explained, and after this, Prabhupada, Lord Krishna explains it in a summary, this section about transcendental knowledge about him. He says this, Evam jnatva kritam karma
Evam gyatva kritam karma
purvairapi mumukshubhi
purvare api mumukshubhi
kuru karmaiva tasmatvam
Kuru karmaiva tasmatvam
purvaih purvataram kritam.
purvataram kritam.
The word evam means thus. That means Krishna is concluding one thought flow. He's telling thus, knowing whatever so far described, there are so many people who are called mumukshu. Mumukshu means those desiring mukti. Those who desire mukti are called mumukshu. So many people who are desiring liberation, they have perfected by knowing this knowledge, transcendental knowledge. Oh Arjuna, Tvam, you also should follow them. That's the import. Purvataram kritam, follow their path. You should follow your duty as your elders, your ancestors have done. Please read the translation, Mataji.
All the liberated souls in ancient times acted with this understanding of my transcendental nature. Therefore, you should perform your duty following in their footsteps.
So Prabhupada in the purport very nicely brings out how important it is to follow one's duties, especially because they are being done by all the earlier perfected souls, liberated souls. Please read this section.
There are two classes of men. Some of them are full of polluted material things within their hearts, and some of them are materially free. Krishna consciousness is equally beneficial for both of these persons. Those who are full of dirty things can take to the line of Krishna consciousness for a gradual cleansing process, following the regulative principles of devotional service. Those who are already cleansed of the impurity may continue to act in the same Krishna consciousness so that others may follow their exemplary activities and thereby be benefited.
So both, whether one is not pure currently and one who has already got the knowledge, he has realized and he is pure, both of them should continue doing Krishna conscious activities, their duties in Krishna consciousness for a very clear reason. So this point had come earlier. You may remember this. Why should one who is already in knowledge continue to do his duties? And if you remember any examples for this?
I think when Arjuna was asking ki, why should I do my duties?
Okay.
That time it was explained ki even though you know everything, you need not to do anything. Still, you have to continue your prescribed duty.
Correct. So
Set
Krishna
the
gave some examples of people who were greatly realized in knowledge, yet continue doing their duties.
Janaka.
Janaka Maharaj. And one more example he had given. Himself. Himself also. So this came in the 3rd chapter, you may remember. So Prabhupada is repeating that point here. Whether one is pure or impure, one should and must continue rendering Krishna conscious activities. That gives for oneself it is very beneficial, and for the welfare of the society, because they follow the example of a leader following it, of a great leader of this community or a society, Shrestha. That famous verse came, Yad Yad Acharati. So like this, Prabhupada is saying this. Now he makes very interesting point here. Please read this. One need only know
how to act, to retire from the activities of Krishna consciousness, and to sit aloof making a show of Krishna consciousness is less important than actually engaging in the field of activities for the sake of Krishna.
So Krishna again and again repeats this. In the path of especially Karma Yoga, which is the discussion here, it's very important that a person is honest. So one should not make a show. One should not just pose himself as a realized person and sit idle. So Krishna consciousness sometimes is misunderstood like this. Prabhupada had told earlier, to retire from one's duties, to stay isolated and pretend to practice bhajan or so. In fact, in our sampradaya, especially Srila Prabhupada stressed very much to be in the society and help others come closer to Krishna. And for this, one should really take that efforts to set a proper example. So one should actually engage in the Krishna conscious activities, not just pose themselves as. So like this, Krishna is urging Arjuna that you should follow your previous authorities. Who are your previous authorities, Arjuna? Do you know? There was the origin, the progenitor of the human species, that is Manu. Before him, there was Ikshvaku, Manu, there was Sun God himself, in this particular chapter it has come. So Prabhupada telling, he recommends the acts of Sun God, who is the great leader. Arjuna, follow these examples. And then now he says why it is so important to follow examples of previous successful liberated souls. because this world is so complex. It's not easy to understand what is the right thing to do, what is that wrong activity which one should abstain from. It's very difficult to understand. He says this, Kim karma kim akarmeti,
Kim karma kim
Kim
akarmeti,
akarmeti
kavayopyatra mohita,
kavayopyatra mohitaah
tatte karma pravakshyami,
tatte karma pravakshami
yajñātva mokṣyase shubhat.
yajnatva mokshase shubhat.
So you may see here very clearly Krishna is saying that kavayopi means, kavi means one who is very learned. So even kavis, the great learned people, are mohita, they become confused, bewildered, भ्रमित हो जाते हैं. In what? Kim karma, what is the right action to do? Karma. Kim akarma, what what is inaction? What is that action which will not give me a reaction? What is it? So that is very difficult for even learned people to understand. Krishna is continuing thought here. In fact, from now on, Krishna tells, I will tell you now about the karma. I told you about my position, which one should very clearly know in Karma Yoga. Now I'm going to tell you about karma. What is the right way to act in this world? Tatte karma pravakshyami. I'm going to tell this. And hearing which, you will be freed from all ashubha. Mokshase ashubha. Ashubha means inauspiciousness. Read the translation.
Even the intelligent are bewildered in determining what is action and what is inaction. Now, I shall explain to you what action is, knowing which you shall be liberated from all misfortune.
In Mahabharata, we know that Pandavas are greatly devoted to Lord Krishna. Among them, the eldest Yudhishthira, who is called Dharma Raja. He knew all the religious principles very well. He was the son of Dharma himself. Yet he also, at one point of time, became bewildered. He became so indecisive. What should I do? I think I am the cause of death of so many people in this war. I should better leave this and go. He also had that kind of a state which Arjuna is having. In fact, he was so much lamenting. Bhima comes and tries to answer him. Arjuna comes and tries to pacify him. Vyasa comes to pacify him. Even Krishna himself says few words. But by divine arrangement, Krishna makes Yudhishthira not become satisfied by his own words, because he wants to explain that knowledge from the mouth of the great devotee. Who is that? Any of you remember this Mahabharata episode? Who was that who spoke? Yes? Bhishma. Yes. So Bhishma, he speaks very elaborate instructions in that last chapter, sometimes called Shanti Parva or Bhishma Parva. It has so many questions and detailings. He asks about Raja Dharma, Varnashrama Dharma, Bhagavata Dharma, and many details. So he's telling about what is action, what is inaction there. So it is not easy to understand. Even sometimes a liberated person like Yudhishthira, he exhibits this to just make us understand how difficult and complex is this world. So Prabhupada says, if one is interested to become liberated, he should know what is the right action to do. And that's why one should follow the leadership of those who are perfected in the spiritual path. That's the principle of disciplic succession or sampradaya or parampara. So Prabhupada is stressing that one cannot understand what is the religious principle, what is the proper religious principle to follow just by one's own speculation or understanding. You see, there are so many situations in Shastra which say that how a person is put into what is called a dilemma. dilemma means sankata, what Arjuna fell into this dilemma is something very, very important. Often we come in a crossroad to decide what to choose between right and wrong. And okay, even if we are leading a very pious life, very devotional life, even if you are walking a pious path, still there are so many choices to make. Whether this one should be followed or this one. Like for Arjuna, what was the dilemma? Whether he should be following his varna, that is kshatriya dharma, or should he be following his ashrama dharma, that is being a grihastha, taking care of his family, community relations. So he had that strong dilemma, conflict, because even among the right actions to do, there are hierarchies. So it's very important to know what is to be kept as priority. So this understanding, it cannot dawn and just by one's own reading, even sometimes just by oneself practicing it also. That's why always there is a need of spiritual master. So in that sense, Prabhupada also stresses this. Krishna himself is telling also here for Arjuna. So it's very important to follow in the parampara. That's the highlight of this. See, out of causeless mercy to his devotees, Lord explains directly to Arjuna what is action, what is inaction. So what is it? Now Krishna will explain the second part of this chapter, which is Karma Yoga with this knowledge. So third chapter also described Karma Yoga, but it was more as a preliminary introduction. Now from here, Krishna will take the discussion to next level. So he talks about not just karma, but in fact, 3 types of karma. Karma, akarma, vikarma. Karmano hyapi bodhavyam.
Karmano hyapi
Bodhavyam cha vikarmana.
Bodhavyam cha vikarmanah.
Akarmanascha bodhavyam.
Akarmanasya bodhavyam.
Gahana karmano gatihi.
Gahana karmano gatihi.
So you are already familiar with these 3 terms, karma, vikarma, akarma. Can someone please say for everyone's recollection, what is karma, what is vikarma, what is akarma?
So, Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Karma means that is followed as per the ritual.
As per the ritual.
Yeah, as per the ritual.
Okay.
As per the scriptures.
Scripture. Okay.
Okay. So
Okay.
akarma is out of the scripture. We do something, but akarma is actually it's an inaction without any goal.
Without any goal.
Motive. Without any motive.
Without any motive. Okay. Fine. Yeah, I think there is a lot of pointers here. Somebody would like to add. Thank you, Prabhu. Somebody would like to add some more specific things on this.
Karma is action to be free from this material cycle.
Karma means free from material world. Okay.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Uh-huh.
Karma is when we do what is mentioned in scriptures.
Very good. Very good.
Vikarma is when we do something which is not mentioned with basically our free will. And akarma is when we keep everything around Krishna. When Krishna is at the center and we do things to please Krishna, any activity, that is akarma, Prabhu.
Very nice. Well said. Yes. So vikarma. Yeah. Somebody would like to add?
No
yes.
reaction. Bro, karma is action. Vikarma is like a negative action. Akarma is that which creates no reaction.
Correct. So in simple words, prescribed action, karma, forbidden action, vikarma, akarma is inaction. Okay. So if you carefully see, karma and vikarma, both are for one's selfish purpose. So one is following Shastra, but why? That's for one's own enjoyment. karma. Yes, it's right. At least he will not get bad reactions. In vikarma, what he will get? He will get sinful reactions. In karma, what he will get? He will get reactions or not in karma? Will he get?
He will get, Prabhuji.
He will get. He will surely get. He will get pious reaction predominantly, but sin is something which you cannot avoid in this world. So predominantly one will get pious reaction. In vikarma, one will get impious or sinful reaction. But in akarma, if you carefully see, there is no reaction.
No reaction.
This is something interesting. And the whole important point about this shloka is not just this. The last line is the most important thing. Gahana karmano gatihi. Gahana means deep. Gahana karmano gatihi. It's very difficult to understand. Very, very difficult to understand. See, you may know this very famous, of course, it's a very famous story. Once there was a butcher who was chasing a cow. Have you heard this? Hare Krishna. And there was one Brahmana who was sitting at one place. And this butcher, actually, the Brahmana saw at first one cow running in front of him. So, any of you know this story, Hare Krishna?
Yes, Prabhuji, I remember.
Yes,
that.
Prabhuji.
Yeah. So somebody who knows should explain. Yes.
So that butcher, he was searching for the cow, and he comes to the Brahmana. He asks in which direction the cow went.
Yeah.
So the Brahmana is actually confused.
Mm.
If he says okay, the right direction, this
Mm.
butcher will kill the cow.
Mm.
But if he doesn't say, then it means that he is telling a lie. So that was the dilemma actually the Brahmana has. So
Okay.
what will happen actually? The Brahmana tells the lie.
Tells a
Don't
lie.
remember
Okay.
exactly, he tells a lie.
Yeah.
And in the
Okay.
next life, actually, he was born, and the butcher is born. I think I do not remember the second part, probably.
Okay.
He is born as what?
Okay.
I remember he goes to and actually that butcher, I think he doesn't.
There are many versions of this.
Yes,
There are
yes.
many versions of this. In the version which I have heard, he tells truth and he goes to hell, I think. Of course, there are many versions, as I told. But the most important part of this story is this Brahmana had to choose between two things: being truthful or being compassionate. None of them is wrong, is it not? This also again goes to support our earlier point of dilemma, confusions, choices when one has to choose from. So it was so difficult. This is one dilemma, one situation of dilemma I've just told in the Shastras. So he had to choose. And interestingly, that version which I have heard, he says truth. And he becomes one of the reasons for that cow's death. And he is punished in the next life because of that. So like this, there are so many very strange stories about karma. Many, sometimes very fearful stories. Oh my God, something happened because of this. Sometimes you hear this, how so many children were born to this Kauravas, Gandhari. She had Dhritarashtra had done something wrong in his earlier life. So it's a complex thing to understand how karma system works. Can I trace back the situation I'm facing to one particular bad or good activity of the past? It's very difficult. So that's why Krishna is very clearly telling Gahana Karmano Gatihi. But at the same time, one should know this, at least what is karma, what is vikarma, and what is akarma. So Prabhupada explains them. Let's read that. Please read the translation, the intricacies.
If the intricacies of action are very hard to understand. Therefore, one should know properly what action is, what forbidden action is, and what inaction is.
What inaction is. So Prabhupada says, if one is serious about getting liberated from this world, one should know properly what are actions which are right, which are wrong, which in fact are so divine that one will not be bound in this world. Action, inaction, unauthorized action. So Prabhupada writes like this. Read the below highlighted part, Mataji.
One who has learned perfectly knows that every living entity is an eternal servitor of the Lord, and that consequently one has to act in Krishna consciousness. The entire Bhagavad Gita is directed toward this conclusion. Any other conclusions against this consciousness and its attendant actions are vikarmas or prohibited actions.
So interestingly, Prabhupada, he doesn't put these three categories in the purport. He just puts two categories. Very interesting. I made some grouping. I explained that karma and vikarma both are selfish, and akarma is truly selfless. So akarma, which is devotional service, so he's telling this, the entire Bhagavad Gita is directed towards this conclusion. So which conclusion? Which part among the three? Akarma. Okay, and any other conclusion against this consciousness, be it even pious action, which is told in the Shastra, which one is following for one's own fulfillment, one's own benefit. So that is also put under the category of vikarma. So Prabhupada says, practically speaking, there are two only. One is mundane action, selfish action, and another is devotional service or selfless action or akarma. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is very interestingly explained about this pious and impious activities or reactions. It's told that bhadra, abhadra, that's the words which are used. Bhadra means pious, abhadra means impious. Both are compared to the cow dung. One is dry, one is wet. Both are not much useful. Even the one which is pious, it will make you stay in this world, and one will be forced to act in impious manner because of the modes of material nature. So in that sense, a devotee truly doesn't regard or value piety over devotional service. So devotional service is most important. So you will see that emphasis in Prabhupada's purport again and again. So in this very chapter itself, it comes very graphically. We will see that. So now Krishna is telling in the shloka, karma, akarma, and vikarma. These are the three ones. And it's very difficult to understand the workings of karma system. Now he goes one step higher. How it is difficult. He tells this kind of a quizzical verse, little puzzle verse. All of you are together. Hare Krishna. Is it going fine?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah. Okay.
Prabhuji, one doubt, Prabhuji.
Yeah. Yes.
Sorry. So,
Yeah.
I mean, in the previous example, right, the cow butcher and Brahmana,
Correct.
how the Brahmana can make it as a karma now? So he has two choices. So just want to know, Prabhuji.
Yes. See, in the Shastras, it is told every value that is, say, a good quality, be it truthfulness, tapasya, austerity, compassion, all of them have to be connected to the Supreme Lord. Otherwise, they will still make a person bound in this world. You see one very interesting Bharat Maharaj. He was very compassionate to the deer. What's wrong? But because it was not connected to the Lord, it made him bound in this. At the same time, there was another example. I'm just telling the example of compassion. Okay.
Yes.
Now, another example in Chaitanya Leela, you will hear one great devotee by name Shivananda Sen, who cared for one dog, which also came in his yatra party when he's traveling from Navadvip to Jagannath Puri to see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So he also cares for that dog, but he sees that dog in connection to Lord. Oh, here is a jiva who wants to take association of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I should serve him, not just see externally. So Shivanand Sen arranges special prasadam for this dog. He pays the toll or tax for this dog. He pays the fees to cross the river. He does all that thing. But his compassion is at the spiritual plan. Whereas the compassion of Bharat Maharaj is told it is bodily compassion. Similar was Arjuna's case in this Bhagavad Gita beginning, is it not? So in the situation we saw about that Brahmana, who chooses, who has to choose between truthfulness or compassion. So he chose truthfulness in the version which I heard I'm explaining, which was not connected to the Supreme Lord, due to which again he was bound. See, saying truth is not the highest principle. One should speak truth which is beneficial for all, which is pleasing, which is according to Shastra. There are further more details, that famous thing is there. What is that? Satyam bruyat, priyam bruyat. Like this, it goes. Very, very interesting Subhashita is there. And Krishna himself says in Bhagavadgita about truthfulness. So one should understand that principle in totality, which has Krishna consciousness inside. Okay. So he could not find that point. It's very difficult. It's very subtle, very, very fine to understand. And often the situations of this world will force one to go by external or superficial means. Is that okay? Yeah. So the Brahmana should have chosen compassion, saying that, oh, this jiva has to be saved. Like we see in that case of Mahabharata, where Yudhishthira was told to tell a lie.
Yeah.
Is it not? So many times dilemmas will come like this. So one should see what is the higher principle. That's where dharma is very complex to understand. Okay.
Prabhuji, so,
Yeah.
so does it mean that it's just a matter of consciousness? The action could be same, but if the consciousness is dovetailed with Krishna, then it is all right. And if it is for our selfish,
that's the difference between karma and akarma.
So we would have been doing the same thing, but the consciousness is with Krishna, then it is akarma.
Yes, consciousness and also value system, which is what he considers as that which purifies him, that which elevates him, not just a functioning of duty, but Krishna element in it. That's also another subtle part. But yes, what you mentioned is very, very exact consciousness. True. Like we are right now, many of us are taking care of family, having a profession, having many social. So this looks very much similar to any person who is not following spiritual life. So he might be doing it as karma, very pious life, very, non-violent, like that. But a devotee who leads very similar, it looks externally very similar, but his consciousness. That's why it's termed as akarma. That's okay.
Hare Krishna. Sorry,
yes,
to drag this same topic a little further.
No.
Actually, suddenly something came to my mind. For example, a thief, he does the theft only to get some money to build a Krishna temple.
Okay.
So what type of karma this would be?
So there are some examples of that. True. There are examples. See, that's why Krishna is nonetheless describing karma, akarma, vikarma, right? So one should know. See, the problem with the sin, why sin is told to be kept oneself distance from, is because it makes one forget Krishna more. When one is at least in a life of piety, say following Shastras, then there is a greater chance of him to, hear something about Lord, associate with some, Satsanga, something, good people, that's the intent, that's how the gradual progression happens. But if one chooses, say, bad actions, then it's very difficult. One may be very easily trapped by such false thinking or wrong thinking and get addicted to such activities. Say, that's why it's very important to first know what is right and wrong. At least know it. What is piety? What is piety? What is sin? And follow. That's why Ishavasya Upanishad starts like this. Follow the right actions and then improve your consciousness while doing those actions. So one should be, first of all, aware of that. So if, say, suppose one is, a thief, and he's told, how can he be elevated? That's a very interesting question to think about. So how can he be elevated? Yeah. So one should give him knowledge. He may not be very he may not be capable to quickly leave his bad habits, but nonetheless, he should be given the knowledge, and slowly, he should be encouraged. Like Prabhupada tells one story. There was one thief, very similar case as you are telling. He came to Satsang and he heard about Krishna, and he became very desiring to stay in the association of that sadhus. So he started staying, but he had this habit of stealing. So he knew that it is wrong. So in the night, what he did, he got up in the night. That's how his instincts were getting up in the night and doing. So he got up and he kept displacing or misplacing the things from one another. At max, he could restrain himself to that, but nonetheless, he had to move the things from one place to another. Morning, when the sadhus got up, they could not find their things at that place. It was a great confusion. And then he came and confessed, sorry, I am a thief. I don't deserve to be here, but I just somehow tried to restrain. So then the mukhya of that sadhu's mela, he comes and appreciates him for being truthful. So there are many, many like this, So how a person is desiring to stay in satsanga, in desiring to devotional service, he has to be encouraged, and one should also protect others at the same time if one is not very improved in his character also, like that. Is it helpful?
Yeah, that is helpful, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
But the thing is, Prabhuji, actually there are a lot of professions, in our world. For example, like take a lawyer profession. Sometimes he takes the cases, he whatever the information he has, he has to defend the case. So maybe he will still win and use that money, for some good Krishna purposes. But maybe he is defending someone really wrong. But it is job to defend. But in his consciousness, he is doing right. But actually, he is doing something wrong. Such type of things. There are a lot of examples probably in this case.
Yes.
So this is actually very tricky.
True, Prabhu. That's not very easily, done. One has to be very, very self-conscious, following one's conscience, whether this is the right case to take. There is always that element of some impiety creeping in. So Prabhupada also told, even if one is a Vaishya, he always, properly following according. He has to tell lie. Prabhupada told about, the merchant promises that I am giving you, Swamiji, for no profit. But no merchant sells for zero profit. He always sells it for a good profit. So there is that defect in every profession. Krishna says that just like there is smoke for a fire, there is a defect in every activity of this world. So only thing which can elevate one above it is devotional service. So one should, as much as possible, try to live purely, but know that this world is not pure by its very nature. So rise above that.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
See, the whole world may be raining. You have to hold an umbrella. Don't get wet. Still something may, no problem. You are under proper shelter. One should seek that umbrella of shelter of Lord, like that. That's all. Yeah. Any other comment?
Prabhuji, will it be right to say that people who are doing karma are in mode of goodness, and people who are doing a karma are in above mode of goodness?
There could be the modes in each of them also. In karma also there could be mode of ignorance, mode of passion, and mode of goodness. Like say, suppose someone is giving charity. Usually we think it is very pious. But Krishna tells charity in 3 modes in 18th chapter. Somebody doing tapasya, Krishna tells tapasya in 3 modes. So in like, the modes are very, everywhere they come. We cannot just have a watertight. No, it's very.
We have to watch each and every action of ours.
So modes is a very detailed study. You will find it later. But now is the introduction of karma. Let's go to that. So Krishna now makes this description more deeper, saying how difficult it is to understand karma. Karmanya karma yah pashyet.
Karmanyakkarmayah pashyet.
Akarmani cha karmaya.
Akarmani cha
Akarmane cha
karmaya.
karmayah.
Buddhiman manushyeshu.
Sabuddhiman
Sabuddhiman
manusheshu.
Sayukta kritsna karma krit.
Sayuktaha
Ayukta
karma
karma
kritaha.
karma krit.
So, making it little, kind of a puzzle, Krishna says, Arjuna, one who sees pashyet. What seeing? Seeing akarma in karma. Very interesting. I thought karma, akarma, vikarma. These are the categories. It's very easily, you can differentiate them. But now Krishna says, one who sees akarma in karma. Karmani akarmaya pashyet. And akarmani cha karmaya. One who sees karma in akarma. Very puzzling. What is this? And Krishna says, one who sees that is a buddhiman, he is an intelligent person, and he is properly situated, Arjuna. He is called yukta. So what is this? Karmani akarma, akarmani karma. What is this? Basically there are two clear statements here. What is that? Karmani akarmaya pashyet. One who sees inaction in action. So here, karma, which is action, it means that which gives reaction. Akarma, inaction, means that which will not give reaction. Very clear. So when it is told, see akarma in karma, what does it mean? Any of you can guess? What does it mean? What does it mean?
Activity that is performed for the Supreme Lord, and
Very
thereby it creates no reaction.
Yeah. So externally it looks like activity only. Everything looks like it. So you see that non-reactive element in action. Because that action is performed based on knowledge. This knowledge, which knowledge? Transcendental knowledge, which is the topic of this chapter. So, as Mataji clearly told, very, very exact, one who is working in Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada gives that only in the purport. He stresses that. Now, let us go to the second one. Seeing karma in akarma. Seeing reactions in what is not action. What does this mean? Somebody who is externally not acting, but he's getting reactions. Is it? Yeah. You have seen one case like this in one of these slokas earlier, third chapter, One who is externally not acting, but he is getting reactions.
Not doing
Is
the
it
work by
impersonalist,
Krishna.
Prabhu?
Impersonalist. Okay, maybe a better example. Impersonalist we cannot really say because he's also above Nishkama Kartika.
One who is not doing his prescribed duties.
Okay, complete that. One who is not doing Krishna's prescribed duty.
Yes, so that means he is accumulating more reactions.
Okay. One who has renounced prematurely. You heard this earlier, a word called mithyachara. Have you not heard?
Yes, Prabhu.
So, one who is externally not acting, but he's getting reactions because his mind is contemplating on doing some action. Whether sinful or pious, that's a different case. So, to see someone who is acting in this world but not getting reaction, and to see someone who is not acting in this world but getting reaction. These are the two cases which Krishna is describing here. Someone please repeat it if it's too abstract, or at least explain it with some example. Is it clear, Hare Krishna? Just describe these two cases, any of you.
Yes, Prabhu. So externally, action in, first is action in, inaction in action is when somebody is doing activity externally, but is doing it for Supreme Lord, so it does not produce reaction.
Very good.
So it becomes akarma. Then the second one, seeing action in inaction, is someone that has renounced activity prematurely, but inside he is contemplating, so that causes reaction.
Very good. Mataji told it exact. So let's see the purport. Prabhupada says this. Please read the translation. Hare Krishna.
One who sees inaction in action and action in inaction is intelligent among men and in the transcendental position, although engaged in all sorts of activities.
Yeah, very interestingly, Prabhupada doesn't go to technicalities. Just now we were seeing few technical. There are much more technical details to this. Prabhupada directly goes to explaining Krishna consciousness. A person acting in Krishna consciousness is free from all the bondage because he's acting for Krishna. He is acting truly in a karmic way. He does not enjoy. So therefore, he is intelligent. So Prabhupada says, can you read this, Prabhupada? Akarma means?
Akarma means without reaction to work. The impersonalist ceases fruitive activities out of fear, so that the resultant action may not be a stumbling block on the path of self-realization. But the personalist knows rightly his position as the eternal servitor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
I think one of the devotees gave example of impersonalist. See here, Prabhupada is supporting your example. So, yes, one impersonalist who always fears engaging in this world. Sometimes they say Jagat Mithya, it will make one trap into Maya, So they fear to engage in this world. But a devotee, a personalist here means a devotee. He rightly knows that he is a servant of Krishna. Everything is property of Krishna. So he, being servant, should utilize everything in Krishna's service, not for persons. In that sense, he acts truly. He is the one who doesn't get any reaction. What is it that doesn't give reaction? So here last Prabhupada makes that. The sense of eternal servitorship to Krishna makes one immune to all sorts of reactions of work. So what is it that makes one not get reaction? It is the understanding of one's position as eternal servitor. That is the true understanding. Not just knowing that I am not this body, I am not this mind, I am not that's not sufficient. So that's why it's called as a complete path. Krishna consciousness is a complete path. So in this way, Krishna explained a little about how to act in this world. Now he tells how to practically do it in this world. So how one should truly practically do it in this world. So he explained the concept of karma, akarma, and how one should see akarma in karma, karma in akarma. Now he tells practically how to apply. Yasya sarve samarambha.
Yasya sarve arambha.
Kama sankalpa varjita.
Kama sankalpa varjita.
Jnanagni dagdha karmanam.
Karmana.
Tamahu panditam buddha.
Tamahu panditam buddha.
So Krishna is saying that one who does every activity, sarve samarambha, every activity one does it, if it is devoid, varjitaha, devoid of what? Kama sankalpa, devoid of one's selfish desire. If any activity undertaken is devoid of one's selfish desire, that person is called pandita. So you may remember this earlier also we saw this broad two categories only. One is selfish action and another is selfless action. So any activity which is not impelled or motivated by a selfish desire. So such a person who is doing that activity is called pandita, because he is not doing for selfish action, there is certain element of jnana in him, and that works as agni, fire, and that burns up dagdha karmanam, that burns up any reaction for that work. Very interesting how knowledge acts as fire. Read the translation, Prabhu. One is
understood to be in full knowledge, whose every endeavor is devoid of desire for sense gratification. He said the sages to be a worker for whom the reactions of work have been burned up by the fire of perfect knowledge.
Perfect knowledge. See, the fire of perfect knowledge. He is truly a person in full knowledge. Pandita. So one of the application, how to apply this knowledge is always never be impelled by one's selfish desire. Why we are doing what we are doing, it's not for one's own benefit. Something which is important as a duty, that should always be kept in foreground. So one doesn't act for his selfish motives, but for as a matter of duty. Highest understanding is as for pleasure of Krishna. So Prabhupada explains this. Read this purport highlighted point.
Because the person in Krishna consciousness is devoid of all kinds of sense gratificatory propensities, it is to be understood that he has burned up the reactions of his work by perfect knowledge of his constitutional position as eternal servitor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Development of this knowledge of eternal servitorship to the Lord is compared to fire. Such a fire, once kindled, can burn up all kinds of reactions too.
So the whole impetus for a person to act is how he can please Krishna as a devotee. Prabhupada is explaining here. He is devoid of sense gratificatory propensities. At the stage of sadhakas, we should at least act to follow the instructions of gurus. Actually, Prabhupada has given some instructions. Our Shiksha gurus gave some instructions. We should keep them as our guiding light in our life. So one should follow that. We may not know what is selfish for me, what is selfless for me. Am I to decide that? Better is to serve it, take help of some superior guidance. So that will be best. So after this, Krishna explains, okay, the first application is do not act based on selfish desire. Act as a matter of duty. Now next one. Tyaktva karma phala sangam.
Tyaktva karma phala sangam.
Nitya tripto nirashrayah.
Nirashrayah.
Karmanyabhipravrittopi.
Karmanyabhipravyutto.
Naiva kinchit karoti saha.
Naiva kinchit karoti saha.
So before acting, I should check what is my motive. Now, after I did the action, I get some result. So how am I able to take the result? In what mode I should accept the result? That's explained here. Tyaktva karma phala sangam. Not be attached to results. Nitya tripta. Whatever comes after doing one's best, accept it and be satisfied. Nirashrayaha. Do not rely on the reactions of the work for your actions further. So like this one who acts, he will not get any reactions. Krishna is naiva kinchit karoti saha. Read the translation. Abandoning
all attachment to the results of his activities, ever satisfied and independent, he performs no fruitive action, although engaged in all kinds of undertakings.
Undertakings, yes. So the earlier shloka told before doing action how one should apply that knowledge. And second, this shloka is telling after performing one's action how one should apply this knowledge. That is not to have attachment to the results, not be satisfied whatever one receives after doing one's best. So Prabhupada tells in the purport, read the highlighted part.
This freedom from the bondage of actions is possible only in Krishna consciousness when one is doing everything for Krishna. A Krishna conscious person acts out of pure love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead and therefore he has no attraction for the results of the action.
Continue.
He does his duty to the best of his ability and leaves everything to Krishna.
Leaves everything to Krishna. Sometimes they say, do your best and leave the rest. Huh? But the devotee can apply it to the fullest, that quote, is it not? He leaves everything to Krishna. He knows fully that Krishna is my well-wisher. He will always act in my benefit. So I should do my duties to the best. So see, this thinking is so very important, in the seminars about acting in the present, mindfulness and all. We tell about not to think about, not to become obsessed or possessed by future. Thinking about future should not, catch or possess a person's thinking so much that he cannot give his best while acting. We say this actually. So this is one of the principle of being mindful. Do not be obsessed by future. So how can that be followed? It can be effectively followed when one understands Krishna consciousness. Now, Prabhupada is saying this. The freedom from bondage of actions is possible only in Krishna consciousness because he's doing everything for Krishna. I am doing activities for Krishna. So the result of that activity, Krishna is going to decide. It's not my duty to think about the results. Am I going to change the reactions by my thinking? Surely not. And especially because it is done for the pleasure of Krishna. It is his desire. It is his power. If he wants, he will change the reaction or the result of that action. So in this sense, when one works, one can actually be in present, be in the present, they say, right? And give his best for those duties. So do your best and leave the rest for Krishna. So Prabhupada makes that interesting statement. So after explaining these two applications, Krishna will explain what will be the state which a Nishkama Karma Yogi will perfect into. How does a perfected Karma Yogi act or think? That is told in the next two shlokas. 21. Nirashir yata chittatma.
Nirastrayata chittama.
Tyakta sarva parigraha.
Sarva parigraha.
Shariram kevalam karma.
Shariram kevalam karma.
Kurvan apnoti kilbisham.
Kurvannapoti kilbisham.
So a person who is perfected in this understanding, who is a true karma yogi, how will he think? Nirashi. He will not desire material things. Yata chittatma. He has control over his mind and intelligence. Tyatta sarva parigraha. He knows that everything depends on Krishna. So how can I claim some proprietorship? I am the owner, I am the proprietor. So he knows this and he is freed from that anxiety. And very interesting highlight of this shloka is the third line. Shariram kevalam karma. He does activities for his bodily maintenance. Now this may sound that he should become almost like a beggar, or he should live very, very simple or having minimal things. Is it like that? So what do you think? Can a karma yogi live in richness, or should he necessarily be a beggar? What do you think?
He can be rich, probably.
Say again.
He can be rich, not necessarily. He has to be a beggar.
Explain this shloka, because Krishna is saying Shariram kevalam karma. He only needs to maintain his body and soul together. Shariram kevalam.
By not getting attached to any richness, Prabhuji. Using all the richness in the service of Krishna.
Yes.
And he should not feel any sort of ownership, like he is not the owner, like proprietorship.
Correct. Very rightly told. Yes, Tyakta sarva parigraha. Like Pandavas, like Parikshit, like many devotees in great opulence, still they continued. The point is about attachment, as all of you mentioned. Kurvan napnoti kilbisham. If one lives like this, there will be no sin to such a person. read the translation. Anyone else would like to take the reading? Thank you, Prabhuji. Anyone else? Yeah.
Yes, Prabhuji, I can read.
Yeah. Yes.
Such a man of understanding acts with mind and intelligence perfectly controlled, gives up all senses of proprietorship over his possessions and act only for the bare necessities of life. Thus working, he is not affected by sinful reactions.
Now, one may say, Are Krishna is suggesting that live with bare necessities of life. Does it mean Arjuna should live in, by accepting some beggar profession or, not fight or like that? No, this depends on one's specific social status or position. For a Kshatriya, to act out of duty is Shariram Kevalam Karma. For a Brahmana, to act out of duty, that is to live in simplicity, austerity, that is his Shariram Kevalam Karma. You see, so this has to be applied according to one's Varna and one's Ashrama. So what is a particular standard of simplicity or renunciation is not generic. Like say for a Grihastha, what is the standard of austerity or simplicity? For a Brahmachari or a Sannyasi, what is the standard of simplicity or austerity? It is different. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains this in while explaining that nectar of instruction verse Atyahara Prayasascha. So Atyahara is different for different social situations. So the point is that one should not become attached, with whatever social situation he is in. He should focus more on not getting attached. That's the focus of Karma Yogi. For a devotee, he should devote his actions for Krishna. That's the point. So Prabhupada says how one should act at the perfected state. A person, he acts in, completely dedicating to the Lord, as if, he doesn't have any independence. So very interesting example here, Prabhupada highlights. Can you read, Mataji, the highlighted part?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
When the hand moves, it does not move out of its own accord, but by the endeavor of the whole body. A Krishna conscious person is always dovetailed with the supreme desire, for he has no desire for personal sense gratification. He moves exactly like a part of a machine, as a machine part requires oiling and cleaning for maintenance. So a Krishna conscious man maintains himself by his work just to kill the animal in his possession, yet the animal does not protest, nor does it have any real independence. A Krishna conscious person fully engaged in self-realization has very little time to falsely possess any material object.
So if you carefully saw, there are two examples given by Prabhupada to explain how a perfected Karma Yogi acts. Here he is referring him as a Krishna conscious person. So the first example is, as a machine requires oiling and maintenance, similarly, a Karma Yogi, a Krishna conscious man, he does actions for the maintenance of his body. One doesn't get lost in, arranging or seeing to that how his body is functioning. It's not about pampering the body, getting so much of time wasted in, over caring for the body. We see that Prabhupada's famous statement, polishing the cage, but forgetting the bird within the cage, is it not? So one should ensure that the body is fit to serve Krishna. Shariram khalu dharma sadhanam, it is told. So the body is an instrument which Krishna has given to perform service. So one understanding this, he should ensure that it is kept in a proper working condition. So that's why in certain articles, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has placed health as the highest priority for a devotee. Why? Because he should ensure that his body is fit to serve Krishna. So health, sadhana, and profession, like that he gives the priority. So just as a machine requires oiling and cleaning, similarly, a devotee should ensure that his body is regularly well maintained. For that, he should ensure he should perform his profession, his material duties, all that he should. So that's the essential. And there is a second example given in this purport. What is that? Please check it. There is one more example given.
Animal.
Yeah. Animal what? Animal what?
1 minute, Prabhuji. Like animal, he has no proprietorship.
Yeah. Like an animal, it has no independence, no freedom. If sometimes one who is taking care of the animal, he decides to kill the animal just follows. Prabhupada says here, like an animal, he has no proprietorship. A cruel proprietor of an animal sometimes desires to, sometimes kills the animal in his possession. See this? Yet the animal does not protest. Nor does it have any real independence. A Krishna conscious person fully engaged in self-realization has very little time to falsely possess any material object. Now, this example may be very frightening. Will Krishna kill? Surely that doesn't mean that. What it means is that a perfected soul, he is so dependent on Lord's desire or plans that if something is even discomforting him, paining him externally, he doesn't care. He just executes the desire of the Lord. Just to give an example of this, there few months before there was Madhavendra Puri's festival of Chandan, applying Chandan. So if we see his life, he was so dedicated and devoted to the Supreme Lord. At one point of time, he gets a dream where Lord tells him that go and get sandal for me. I am feeling so much of heat. And he immediately gets ready the next day, tells what happened to what he heard in the dream to the Vrindavan residents, and he leaves towards Jagannath Puri, the Malaya hills. And he's walking right from Delhi to, Bhubaneswar. He has to walk now. He's walking. In the middle, that famous pastime of Kheer Chor Gopinath happens. And then he walks, and he gets the sandalwood. And then he, with the help of the people there who have volunteered to help him, seeing her as such a great saint, and he is bringing the sandalwood back to Vrindavan. You know what happens after this? Any of you? Very interesting event happens after this. That shows this point which we are discussing. What happens after this when he's bringing? And if you know this pastime, Hare Krishna.
After the Kheer pastime, bro?
No, that happened while he was moving towards Puri. But now he's returning with the sandalwood. What happens then? He comes to the very same place where Kheer Chor Gopinath pastime had happened. Now he had already become famous that, oh, he's the one for whom Lord stole the kheer. Now there he gets another dream where Lord says, okay, now you put all the chandan to Gopinath. Do not bring to Vrindavan. Now here, if something happens like you, imagine yourself in that situation. You did so much of efforts to bring so many months of walking. Now you are taking it back. Hare, what do you think, Lord? I'm bringing it so far and you're telling you offer it here itself. So, but he doesn't question, you see, he offers it to Gopinath and then he happily offers worship and then he comes back to Vrindavan empty-handed to Gopal. So, this is one simple example. There are many, many examples like this. How devotee doesn't act independently. If Lord desires like this, then he accepts it and follows. So this is a perfected state of Karma Yoga. As I'm referring again, this and the next shloka, they are perfected states. The earlier two shlokas were practice, sadhaka states. So Prabhupada says a person fully engaged in service has very little time to falsely possess any material object. So Prabhupada, Krishna continues describing such a perfected karma yogi in the next shloka. Yadricha labha santushto.
Labha santushto.
Dvandvatito vimatsara.
Dvandvatito
Dvandvatitopi mas
Samasiddhava-siddhau cha
samasiddhau siddhau
Kritvapi na nibadhyate.
Kritva
kritva
nibhate.
Such a perfected karma yogi, he is happy whether he gets profit or he gets loss. He is satisfied. Santushtaha. Samaha siddhav asiddhav cha. Basically, he is beyond dualities. Read the translation, Mataji.
Yes, Prabhuji. He who is satisfied with gain, which comes to its own accord, who is free from duality and does not envy, who is steady in both success and failure, is never entangled although performing actions.
Read the highlighted part.
A Krishna conscious person does not make much endeavor even to maintain his body. He is satisfied with gains which are obtained of their own accord. He neither begs nor borrows, but he labors honestly as far as in his power, and is satisfied with whatever is obtained by his own honest labor. He is therefore independent in his livelihood. He does not accept engagement in anyone's service if it might hamper his own service in Krishna consciousness. However, for the service of the Lord, he can participate in any kind of action without being disturbed by the duality of the material world.
See, very interestingly here, he neither begs nor borrows, but he labors honestly as far as in his power. Very interesting. Huh? Whatever Lord gives by my honest actions, that he is satisfied. With that, he serves Krishna. Prabhupada says at the end, these signs are visible when one is fully in transcendental knowledge. That means it's a perfected stage. Okay. So now, kind of summarizing what is this karma, vikarma, and flowing to the next important section where karma is defined as yajna, sacrifice. Krishna tells the next shloka. I will just read this shloka and take the question. Yeah. Gata sangasya muktasya jnana avasthita chetasa yajnaya charata karma samagram praviliyate. Okay, what was the comment?
You said the 4.21 and 2 to a perfected stage of Karma Yoga. Before that, you said some other stage. What is that?
That was practice, sadhakas. There is practice and perfection, like that. Okay, yeah. So let's go to this shloka where Krishna kind of summarizes this section. Gata sangasya muktasya, one who is freed from actions of modes, gata sanga, or reactions. And he is mukta now, he is jivan mukta. He is a karma yogi, he is a jivan mukta. Though he is living in this world, he is liberated. That's a state before actual liberation, jivan mukta, because he is situated in jnana vastita chetasaha. And very interestingly, Krishna will introduce here, yajnaya charata karma. His action, which is karma, has become a yajna. From here starts the concept of yajna or sacrifice, which is the next section in this section of Karma Yoga, the middle section of this chapter. And when he acts like this, samagram praviliyate. So, for such a Karma Yogi, the action becomes sacrifice. Wow. Now, what does the sacrifice mean? Prabhupada will explain that later. Read the translation. The work
of a man who is unattached to the modes of material nature and who is fully situated in transcendental knowledge, merged entirely into transcendency.
So sacrifice is something which is about transcendence. Transcendence here means that which is of a spiritual nature, which is not of this material world. It is of spiritualness. So sacrifice is expect, what sacrifice does is it makes one sacred. This is a principle across all the religions. Even in Christian tradition, you have this word called sacrament, sacred food, they say. So sacrifice, which gives a spiritual result. So the work becomes a sacrifice. So Prabhupada tells ahead, read the highlighted part. He can
become liberated because he knows his constitutional position in relationship with Krishna, and thus his mind cannot be drawn from Krishna consciousness. Consequently, whatever he does for Krishna, who is primeval Vishnu. Therefore, all his work are technically sacrifices, because sacrifice aims at satisfying the Supreme Personal Krishna.
Do you remember any shloka so far studied which has the yajna word? Very famous. One shloka you have all seen in 3rd chapter. Yajna Shishta Shina. Do you know this? 3.10, I think. Yeah. So that's a very famous shloka, no problem. So it Yajna Shishta Shina Santo. Krishna says there that if one performs his activity for Yajna, Yajna means Vishnu. He says Yajna means Vishnu. The word Yajna means Vishnu. So one who does his activity for Vishnu, for pleasing Vishnu, that's why here the word is coming in primeval Vishnu. Then he will be freed from all bondage. Yajna Shishta Shina Santo Muchyante Sarva Kilbishai. All papa is freed from all that. Yajna Shishta Mritabhuj, Muchyante Sarva Kilbishai Ye Pachanti Atma Karanat. One who doesn't offer to Yajna and he eats himself, that is called as papa. He's eating only sin. Like that, there was a shloka in 3rd chapter. So Prabhupada is actually paraphrasing the translation of that verse. So now comes the interesting concept of yajna. What is this yajna? So Krishna is explaining that from this particular shloka here, 24 onwards. So in the Karma Yoga concept, we should note this, that for a Karma Yogi, he is performing the actions in the spirit of yajna. So what is yajna? Yajna is not necessarily offering of some ghee into some fire. That is one type of yajna. In this particular chapter, you will see Krishna describing some 9-10 types of yajna. And one of them is what we usually think it to be, that is offering some ghee into fire. So the yajna as a principle is offering one's contribution, which is called arpana, to a deity, a higher personality, and receiving spiritual results. You offer something for a noble cause, for a spiritual cause. That is yajna in general. And yajna has so many benefits which Krishna himself will describe. So usually we consider yajna, as I was just listing, and that the yajna which is described, which we see often, those who have either sometime or other have seen a yajna, have taken part in a yajna, they must have seen people who gather around some fire element, and there are some specific people, different type of people are there. So in a yajna as a whole, there is a presiding deity. Like there are different types of yajna which they do. Narayana Bali, or say so many types of homa, yajna. These are all synonymous. Homa, yaga, yajna. They are of different scale. So, but in all yajnas, there is a presiding deity. There is a person who is performing the yajna. He is called Yajamana. Yes. And then he is offering something which is called dravya. Dravya means some material ingredient. Say some payasam, some ghee, some dhanya, some grains he puts into the fire. You may have seen people adding, so many types of items, some bananas, at least in the initiation yajna, which you might have attended. So there you will see that. Of course, there is Agni, fire. And there are so many instruments in that yajna. There are some wooden instruments, some different types of instruments are there. There are priests who are technically called, which are ritviks, priest. And then there is some desired goal, so they are doing it for a specific purpose, which is called gantavya. And they follow some ritual, which is vidhi, So these are in general in a yajna, you will see this. There is a yajamana, there is a presiding deity, say Narasimha yajna, Sudarshana yajna, or Vaishnava homa. Like this, there are many. And there is a priest who is offering the ingredients on behalf of yajamana. There are so many people around. But if we see in general, what is yajna? It is explained here. Can someone read this? Yajna means. What is the principle of yajna? Read this.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Can I read, Prabhuji?
Yes, read.
Yajna means selfless sacrifice for noble purpose. Sacrifice, ego, selflessness, and material attachments.
Selfishness. That the second one is selfish.
Selfishness and material attachments, and adopting rational thinking.
Yeah.
Compassion for the welfare of all is needed. The best yajna, which should be performed by all human beings. Sacrifice, sacred.
Yeah.
The philosophy of yajna teaches a way of living in the society in harmony, a living style to promote and protect higher human values in the society, which is indeed the basis of the ideal human culture. In Samhitas and Brahmanas, yajna involved a ritualistic process. They are mentioned as mental process as one gradually progress to Upanishads. Thank you.
So usually if you see, thank you, bro. Yajna, it involves giving away something, So by that person is understanding, actually I'm not the true owner or possessor of these things. I have to acknowledge some higher being. It actually belongs to them. I can only use with their permission. I have to make this sacred. Say suppose, a person enters a new home. They do something called Vastu Homa. Is it not? Why we do that? We should know that the entire property, the whole world belongs to Lord. We are living as like a tenant. Is it not? So one should acknowledge this. And that whole vidhi, if you carefully study the rituals, the mantras, all of them are for this meaning only. So for this, the Karma Yogi, he follows all these rituals. Why? With this understanding he follows. So Krishna is telling to Arjuna, hey, you do so many yajnas which you consider very important in life. Understand that your fighting of this battle is itself a yajna. You know where is this yajna kund? That is this big battlefield. And you have to offer what oblations? You have to offer these Kauravas as ahuti. The fire is the Virata Rupa. The instruments are like your Gandiva bow and arrow. With them you have to offer. The presiding deity is Lord Vasudeva himself here. So Lord is telling here that see your action as sacrifice. With this spirit you do. For a spiritual cause you do. And what is the benefit of yajna? Sacrificing ego, selfishness, and material attachments. It is very, one who truly follows the understanding of yajna, he will have to reach this result. Adapting the compassion for the welfare of all this. So now, when one understands the purpose, the transcendental knowledge, then all of this becomes spiritualized. So Krishna tells a very interesting shloka. This shloka, which is shloka number 24, I heard it first time in one of the even impersonal matha, where before taking prasada, they used to they used to say this. Many of them still have like that. So it's a very famous shloka in that sense. Brahmarpanam Brahma Havir.
Brahmarpanam Brahma Havir.
Brahmagnau Brahmana Hutam.
Brahmagnau Brahmana Hutam.
Brahmaiva Tena Gantavyam.
Brahmaiva Tena Gantavyam.
Brahma Karma Samadhina.
Brahma Karma Samadhina.
So many times this word has come Brahma, and it leads to a lot of Brahma. It gives a kind of confusion. So what is this Brahmarpanam Brahmavir? What it basically means is understanding that everything is coming from that one Supreme Lord. It should be used for His purpose. That's what it means, in simple words. In a yajna, there is something called arpana, which is offering. There is something called havi, which is like a oblation, they say. There is agni, the fire. I was saying that components of yajna in the earlier slide, they are all there here. Brahmana means a priest. Brahmana hutam. And brahmaivatena gantavyam, the purpose, the noble cause for which one is doing this. So all of this becomes Brahma. Here Brahma means spiritual. Brahma doesn't mean the four-headed Brahma, or it doesn't mean that impersonal Brahma. It means spiritual in nature. Like Aham Brahmasmi, we say that word. What does that mean? Aham Brahmasmi. Aham Brahmasmi means I am not this matter. I am spirit soul. Is it not? So Brahma means it's a nature of spiritual elements in that sense. So all of that becomes spiritualized, Arjuna. Come to this transcendental knowledge, everything becomes spiritualized. So read the translation. A person. What's reading? Yeah, read. Yeah.
A person who is fully observed in Krishna consciousness is sure to attain the spiritual knowledge. Spiritual kingdom, because of his full contribution to spiritual activities, in which the consummation is absolute, and that which is offered is of the same spiritual
nature. So what is essential thing is everything becomes spiritualized. It becomes, because it is served for the cause of absolute truth. So Prabhupada in the purport explains, can you read this? How activities
in Krishna consciousness can lead one ultimately to the spiritual goal is described here. There are various activities in Krishna consciousness, and all of them will be described in the following verses. But for the present, just the principle of Krishna consciousness is described.
So you should very carefully note here, Prabhupada means Krishna consciousness means yajna, technically speaking. So there are various types of yajna which will be described ahead. But now the principle of yajna, which is Krishna consciousness. Yajna means what? Working for spiritual purpose, that is offering to the Lord. So that way it is Krishna consciousness. So that is being described. So how to make one's action spiritualized, that is told in the next part. The process
by which the conditioned soul can get out of the material atmosphere in Krishna consciousness. For example,
Krishna consciousness. Yeah.
For example, a patient who is suffering from a disorder of the bowels due to overindulgence in milk product is cured by another milk product, namely yogurt. The materially observed conditioned soul can be cured by Krishna consciousness as set forth here in the Gita.
Yeah, so here Prabhupada is giving an example. Let us see what is this example. The example is about having some disease due to overeating of some milk product. Bowels means basically the food movements inside the digestive system. So when one takes a lot of milk products, say paneer, or milk sweets, a lot of it, stomach, because it has stomach problems. It gives to stomach problems. And what is given usually in Ayurvedic medicine? They give curd, which is nothing but milk only. Is it not? But it is in a different nature. It's a transformed milk. So that curd, because of its different nature, it can cure that disease. Very interesting. So that very activity, which was the cause of bondage for the conditioned soul, is now a cause of liberation for the conditioned soul. This is the point here. So the milk product, which was the cause of disease, is compared to, any of you please complete it? What is it compared to?
The conditioned soul can get out of the material atmosphere is Krishna consciousness. For example, a patient who is suffering from a disorder of the...
Yeah, that's true. I'm asking this specific question here, understanding of this. The question is, the milk product led to a disease. So what is that compared to?
Material attachment and material things.
The activity, the material activity which because of material motive, which led to bondage. Is it not? The disease is bondage. And the same milk product in a different form, which is curd, is the cause of cure for that disease. So what is that compared to?
Krishna consciousness.
Krishna consciousness.
That activity which is spiritualized now. That very activity, but it is spiritualized now. But now it is a cause of not bondage. What is it? Liberation. So I hope this is a very important analogy. How that same activity has the nature to bind a person or liberate a person. What matters is the consciousness. I repeat it, the same activity can either bind or liberate. What matters is consciousness. So this example of milk product giving disease and the same milk in a different form, which is curd, curing that disease, is to explain this. Actually, this concept is coming from Srimad Bhagavatam. Narada Muni himself says this in Srimad Bhagavatam. So Prabhupada is quoting from Srimad Bhagavatam. Very nice example to explain the working of yajna. So let us go ahead in the purport.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes.
Sorry, Prabhuji, I couldn't understand this particular.
Okay, you could not understand. Okay, no problem. So you see, Prabhu, what is told here is milk. I say so small children, when they drink a lot of milk, they get some loose motions. So for them, it is told that they are given curd. When one has a very bad stomach, one is given curd. And that curd cures that indigestion, right? The milk, but in another form, curd, it cures the disease. Earlier, the milk was the cause of the disease. Now, milk in another form is the cause of cure for that disease. Similarly, the milk, which is compared to action, material action, which is based on some material motives or like that, was the cause of bondage. Is it not? Karma, vikarma, whatever you call it. Is it not? Now that same action, which is transformed, what transformation has happened? Any of you please help?
Krishna consciousness.
It is spiritualized. Is it not? That's the concept of yajna, brahmarpanam, brahma. Now that word has come again. So the spiritualized action is the cause of liberation. Arjuna, do not think that not doing your duty is the cause of liberation. No, you spiritualize your action. You fight for a spiritual cause. This is the emphasis. Is it clear, Prabhu?
It means we have to, whatever we are doing, we have to keep in Krishna in center, and we have to.
Yeah.
That will get the.
Yes. That's how one actually gets liberated from this world. One should not stop doing actions. Surely one should do, prescribed actions, Shastri prescribed actions, but one should do it for spiritual cause. That will lead one to liberation. That's the essential understanding.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Any of you are clear about this? This is an important analogy for your exam also. It's important to remember this.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah. So let's continue this purport. It has very interesting points coming ahead. Please read this part, Prabhu.
Everything that exists is situated in that Brahma Jyoti. But when the Jyoti is covered by illusion, Maya, or sense gratification, it is called material. This material veil can be removed at once by Krishna consciousness.
See, this is very interesting. So everything is actually spiritual. But when it is covered by our wrong understanding, which itself is called illusion or Maya, we perceive it to be material. That's a very important point. So when this covering, which is our avidya or ajnana, this material veil can be removed. When it is removed, then it is spiritual in nature. So Prabhupada says, what is Maya? How to make matter into spirit? That is explained in the next highlighted part. Read this, the absolute.
The absolute truth covered by Maya is called matter. Matter dovetailed for the cause of the absolute truth regains its spiritual quality. Krishna consciousness is the process of converting the illusory consciousness into the Brahman or the Supreme.
So I think all of you are hearing this word dovetailed. Let me explain that. Any of you know what does dovetail mean? It would be good if any of you explain. Any of you know? Dovetail. What does dovetail mean? You have heard of dove and you have heard of tail. What is dovetail?
It's in sync with that.
In sync with that? Okay.
To mold it in such a way.
It's interesting. To mold it in such a way.
Mold it in such a way as becomes Krishna conscious.
Okay, yes.
Hare Krishna, bro.
Yes, bro. Yes.
Channelizing in one direction.
Very right. I was looking for any mechanical engineer who can answer this, because they will understand this joint called dovetail joint or dovetail bend, they call it. Basically, when something is flowing, it's a straight flow. But when you add a dovetail joint, you are changing the direction, in the filing, and, they make something called dovetail joint. So by that, you change the flow of energy. So when it is told that dovetailing for service of Krishna means our energy was flowing in a specific direction, that is sense gratification. So Prabhupada is telling dovetail, move it in the direction of serving Krishna. So here, if you see, what is that which Prabhupada is using for this word dovetail? So he says, matter dovetailed for the cause of absolute truth. So when one serves, when one uses the material or whatever possessions we have for the cause of absolute truth, for serving Krishna, then it becomes spiritual. You may remember this in Nectar of Instruction. Prabhupada tells, I am using dictaphone. Have you heard this? He says that, dictaphone.
Prabhuji, invocation prayer.
He says that. So, and the dictaphone, even the manufacturer would not have thought to use it for serving Krishna, but Prabhupada used it to serve Krishna, and that has become spiritualized. While explaining that Utsaha, Nishchaya, Dhairya, he says this. So when we use things for things which are matter in nature, we use it for serving Krishna, they become spiritual. They become spiritualized. So, O Arjuna, you have to spiritualize your duty. Do not run away from fighting, which is your duty. So now Krishna will start describing different types of sacrifices from this shloka onwards. So just to summarize, because there have been a lot of concepts coming here. So what did we see so far? In the beginning, Krishna told how one should act What is karma, akarma, vikarma, how difficult and complex is karma, he told that. Then he told how one should act properly. At the practice stage, at the perfected stage, what one should be careful about, how one should apply the transcendental. Then he told, make your duty or karma into sacrifice. And what is that principle of sacrifice? We are seeing it here in this shloka 24. It's one of the most misinterpreted shloka also. Brahmarpanam, Brahmahavir. There is a lot of technical details here, but Prabhupada is making it very, very practical. So from 25 onwards up till 33, there are different types of yajna which Krishna explains. One type of yajna. Let us see them. Daivam eva pare yajnam.
Daivam
eva pare yajnam.
Yoginah paryupasate.
Yoginah paryupasate.
Brahmagnav apare yajnam. Yajnenaivopajuhvati. So please read the translation. Someone?
Can I read, Prabhuji?
Yes, some yogis read.
Some yogis perfectly worship the demigods by offering different sacrifices to them, and some of them offer sacrifices in the fire of the Supreme Brahman.
So the first two types of yajna Krishna explains here. The first one is worship of demigods is a type of yajna. What are those people doing, worshippers? They are offering some ingredients in the fire for pleasing the demigod, for fulfilling some desire. So that is also a yajna. It's a sacrifice. And the second type of yajna, here they are not worshipping any devata. They are, meditating or following, impersonal Brahman. And these are impersonalists. So here impersonalist, it means Brahmavadi, not Mayavad. There's a difference between Mayavad and Brahmavad. Any of you know? In Ishopanishad, you might have heard these terms. Any of you know?
Brahmavadis are impersonalists, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
And Mayavadis, they do not even recognize Krishna as a god or anything, but at least Brahmavadis recognize Krishna as a god.
Okay.
And Mayavadis are basically people who works as according to their whims and fancies, whatever they feel is correct.
Yeah, that's also correct. Yes, correct. So to tell it in brief, Brahmavadis, they are at the first aspect of absolute truth, that is Brahman, which is all pervading, which is formless, and which is one aspect of Krishna, is it not? It's a effulgence of Krishna. So they are just at that beginning stage. They may be aware of Bhagavan, or they may not be aware of Bhagavan. They could be aware, or they may not be aware. But surely they don't have attraction to Bhagavan. Because attraction to Bhagavan, that is the Supreme Personality of God, and it comes when one receives mercy of devotees. So that is not there, due to which they are following the Brahman realization. They are Brahmavadi. Sometimes this one English word, impersonalist, is used for Brahmavadi also, Mayavadi also. So you should see the context. When impersonalist is used in a negative connotation or usage, it means what?
Mayavadi.
It means Mayavadi. Because Mayavadis, very interesting point about Mayavadis is they deride, they defy, they insult Krishna, Bhagavan. They say him to be matter. Whenever Krishna comes to this world, he is a human. They say that I can also become God. So they basically do not accept. They become aparadhis. That's why it's called Mayavadi, Krishna aparadhi. So that is negative. That is offense. But Brahmavadi is not offense. It is a transitionary step by step. Okay, that's Brahmavadi. So in this shloka, the second type of yajna which is described, which Prabhupada says offer sacrifices in the fire of Supreme Brahman, is impersonalist. But what is it technically? Either Brahmavadi or Mayavadi? What is it technically? Is it Brahmavad or Mayavad?
Brahmavad.
Brahmavad.
Yes, correct. So that way we should understand. So can you read this highlighted, Mataji? Mataji was reading. You have to unmute, Mataji. We are not hearing you.
So there are different kinds of sacrifice by different types of performers. Only superficially demand varieties of.
Yeah. You can read this part. Is it?
Yes. One second. Such different categories of sacrifice by different types of performers only superficially demark varieties of sacrifice.
Yeah.
Actually, sacrifice means to satisfy the Supreme Lord, Vishnu, who is also known as Yajna. All the different varieties of sacrifice can be placed within two primary divisions, namely sacrifice of worldly possessions and sacrifice in pursuit of transcendental knowledge.
Okay, so if you carefully see, Prabhupada is telling different sacrifices for different categories. See, not everyone has to do every yajna. We should very carefully note it. It is for different categories for different yajnas there. So factually, in all yajnas, this one principle is there. What is that? To satisfy Supreme Lord. So like this, Prabhupada is explaining the principle of yajna. So Prabhupada also tells about demigod worship. Can you read this much? Those who are
in Krishna consciousness sacrifice all material possessions for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord, while others who want some temporary material happiness sacrifice their material possessions to satisfy demigods such as Indra, the sun god, etc. And others who are impersonal sacrifice their identity by merging into the existence of impersonal Brahman.
I am highlighting something below. Can you read that? Those who are.
Other words. Okay.
It's little below.
Those who are interested in material benefits worship the demigods by various sacrifices according to the Vedic rituals. They are called
Bahu-ishvarvadi.
Are believers in many gods, but others who worship the impersonal feature of the absolute truth and regard the form of the demigods as temporary, sacrifice their individual selves in the supreme fine or thus their individual existence by merging into the existence of the supreme.
So the first one was demigod worship, then it's told impersonalist. In other words, little below.
Yes. In other words, the fruitive workers sacrifice their material possessions for material enjoyment, whereas the impersonalist sacrifices his material designations with a view to merging into the existence of the Supreme. For the impersonalist, the fire altar of sacrifice is the Supreme Brahman, and the offering is the self being consumed by the fire of Brahman.
Supreme Brahman. So like this, Prabhupada has explained two types. And again, he has summarized it very nicely. One is to sacrifice possession. Another is to sacrifice one's own self, that is designation. That's the path of Brahmavad. So Arjuna is being told, Arjuna, you don't need to sacrifice yourself. You act for my pleasure. In that way, you sacrifice yourself. So these are the first two types of sacrifice described. Let us go and take few more shlokas before we end for today and see 2-3 more types of sacrifice. Shrotradin indriyanyanye. Samyamagnishu juhvati.
Samyamagnishu juhvati.
Shabdadin vishayan anya. Indriyagnishu juhvati. So here the yajnas which are according to ashramas, say a brahmachari what type of yajna he should do, a grihastha what type of yajna he does, that is told in the next shloka by Krishna. Read the translation, Mataji. Some
unadulterated brahmacharis sacrifice the hearing process and the senses in the fire of mental control, and others, the regulated householders, sacrifice the object of the senses in the fire of the senses.
So these are the third and fourth type of yajna according to ashrama. So in the ashrama paddhati, there is unadulterated brahma. This means a Naishtika brahmacharis. So they, what do they do? How are they doing sacrifice? They are sacrificing the hearing process. They have to hear the Shastra and they have to follow mental control. Others who are regulated householders, grihasthas, they are sacrificing Vishaya, sense objects, in the fire of senses. Indriyani Agni. Read this highlighted part, the brahmacharis.
Yes, Prabhu. The brahmacharis are students under the care of a bona fide spiritual master, control the mind by abstaining from sense gratification. A brahmachari hears only words concerning Krishna consciousness. Hearing is the basic principle of her understanding, and therefore the pure brahmachari engages fully in Harer
Namanu Kirtanam.
Harer Namam Kirtanam, chanting and hearing the glories of the Lord.
So this is about the third type of yajna, which is for a brahmachari ashrama, brahmacharya. So technically speaking, a brahmachari is one who is pursuing Brahman, who is dedicated for spiritual culture. He lives at the place of Gurukula, and he follows very strictly the services, the instructions, and he's hearing Shastra. So that is yajna for him. So yajna is there for everyone, but what type of yajna for different people is explained. Now for grihasthas, Prabhupada says, similarly, the householders who have some license for sense gratification should indulge in such acts with great restraint. So grihasthas, they also have to perform yajna. So how even any activity a grihastha does, he should have a regulation about it. Such acts with great restraint. So that's the fourth type of yajna. See, as Prabhupada here mentions license for sense gratification. Yes, there is a freedom, there is a little independence in this ashrama where one can engage with the world with little more liberty. At the same time, there should be regulation on it. One should act for a spiritual cause, following a guru. That's the fourth type of yajna. Let's see another type of yajna, which is Ashtanga yogis do. Sarvan Indriya Karmani.
Sarvandriya Karmani.
Prana Karmani Chapare.
Prana Karmani Chapare.
Atma Samyama Yogatnau.
Atma Samyama Yogatnau.
Juhvati Jnana Deepite.
Juhati Jnana Deepite.
So for how many types of yajna we have seen?
4 types.
Four types.
Can someone quickly list? The first one was demigod worship. Okay, let's continue. Second, impersonalist. Yes. And third one, just now we saw third one.
Third one is Naishtiki Brahmacharis, Prabhuji.
Brahmacharis. And fourth one,
householders, regulated
households. Okay. So now Krishna is describing the fifth one, which is for a yoga, Ashtanga yogi, who is practicing pranayama, all that. So what type of yajna does he do? Read this. Others.
Let others read, Prabhuji.
Yeah, others please read. Any of it, please quickly.
Others who are interested in
Yes.
Others who are interested in achieving self-realization through control of the mind and senses, offer the functions of all the senses and of the life breath as a oblation into the fire and controlled mind.
So these people who are yogis, who are trying to control mind and senses, what are they offering? They are offering the activities of their senses and mind. And to what are they offering? What is the fire here? That is the controlled mind. So a yogi, he is focusing on his control of mind and senses, trying to achieve self-realization. So he is also performing yajna. So Prabhupada explains the Patanjali Yoga Sutras. Please read the highlighted part in the
Yoga Sutra of Patanjali. The soul is called Pratyagatma and Paragatma. As long as the soul is attached to sense enjoyment, is called Paragatma. But as soon as the same soul is become detached from such sense enjoyment, it is called Pratyagatma.
So these terms are used in the Yoga Shastras, Yoga Sutras. So Prabhupada is telling Paragatma means conditioned soul, is it not? And Pratyagatma means one who is detached and liberated. So read a little ahead, the Patanjali system.
The Patanjali system of yoga instructs one on how to control the functions of the body's air in a technical manner, so that ultimately all functions of the air within become favorable for purifying the soul of material attachment.
So in the yoga system, they are focusing a lot on control of air. There is chakras, control, there is pranas control. So all this is done basically to detach the soul from its material covering. So there is prana, apana, vyana, which are all vayus, prana vayus, which are controlled in the cultivation of Ashtanga Yoga. That's fifth type of yoga, yajna. So we will end with this shloka 28. Dravya yajnas tapo yajna.
Dravya
Dravya tapo yajna.
Tapo yajna.
Tatha pare.
Yogi yajnas tatha pare.
Swadhyaya jnana yajnascha.
Swadhyaya jnana yajnascha.
Yataya samshita prata.
Yatah sanchitratah.
So read the translation.
Having accepted strict oaths, some become enlightened by sacrificing their possessions, and others by performing severe austerities. By practicing the yoga of eightfold mysticism, or by studying the Vedas to advance the transcendental knowledge.
So here 4 more types of yajna are described. So first one is Dravya yajna. Just see, there are so many types of yajna. We usually think yajna is only one, which is actually Dravya yajna we have seen. So Dravya yajna, Dravya yajna is, what is that, which Prabhupada will explain, giving charity, all that he will say. So Dravya yajna, which is sacrificing possessions. Tapo yajna, severe austerities. Yoga yajna, which is eightfold mysticism yoga. And Swadhyaya Jnana Yajna, studying the Vedas to advance in knowledge. So Prabhupada says sacrifices may be fitted into different divisions. So the first one in this shloka explained is sacrificing possessions. Like we see a person is doing charity. A lot of charities people do, different items they do charity. So they are sacrificing some dravya. Dravya means some matter. Dravya doesn't mean only drava, liquid. It could mean anna, it could mean water, it could mean even food. Many things. People nowadays, they don't know what is the right thing to offer in charity also. They may offer something wrong. Sometimes they give out non-vegetarian food or liquor, and during elections they give charity of this. That is not dravya yajna, surely. So Krishna Prabhupada says dharmashala, annakshetra, atitishala, anathalaya, vidyapitha, knowledge also, you see, books, giving of books, all this. So this is all dravyamaya yajna, which are charitable activities. Okay, this is fifth type of yajna. Now next one is which one? In this shloka, what was told?
Austerity.
Austerity, correct. Tapomaya yajna. So Prabhupada tells about Chaturmasya, or even there are many different types of tapasya people do. That's explained in Tapomaya yajna. In Chaturmasya, there are many complex kind of rules which people follow. Sometimes even people follow Kartika in that mood. But in devotional service, we follow it for pleasing Krishna. That's a different case. So that is Tapomaya yajna. And the Yoga yajna, which is following the Patanjali Yoga Sutras, Hatha Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, for basically acquiring some siddhi in this world. That's also yajna. Krishna is explaining Yoga yajna. Then another one is studying Shastras. where one studies, say, Vedic texts, Brahmanas, Aranyakas, Upanishads, Vedanta Sutra, all that. That is Swadhyaya Jnana Yajna. This is the fourth type in this shloka. Total 8 we have seen so far. So Prabhupada says here, can you please read this last? Yogis are
faithfully engaged in different types of sacrifice and are seeking a higher status of life. Krishna consciousness, however, is different from this because it is a direct service of the Supreme Lord. Krishna consciousness cannot be attained by any of the above mentioned types of sacrifices, but can be attained only by the mercy of the Lord and his bona fide devotees.
Yes.
Therefore, Krishna consciousness is a transcendental.
So all these yajnas or yogas, whatever, is a person is doing by his effort. But Krishna consciousness you cannot attain by one's own effort. There has to be some mercy of the Lord or devotees. That's why Prabhupada says it cannot be put under the category of these types of yajna. It's a direct service to Krishna. So there is one last yajna. We'll see this shloka and we will end. Sorry for this. I did not see this. Apane juhvati pranam.
Apane juhvati pranam.
Prane panam tatha pare.
Prane panam
tatha pare.
Prana pana gati rudhva.
Prana pana gati rudhva.
Pranayama parayana.
Pranayama parayana.
Apare niyatahara.
Apare
nityata.
Pranan praneshu juhvati.
Pranan praneshu juhvati.
So this is put as another category. This is a part of Ashtanga Yoga only, but it's very specifically about controlling breath, making the breath movements opposite to what is it regular. So can you read the translation?
Still others are inclined to the process of breath, restrained to remain in trance. Practice by offering the movement of the outgoing breath into the incoming and the incoming breath into outgoing. And this at last remain in trance. Stopping all breathing. Others curtailing the eating process, offering the outgoing breath into the self itself as a sacrifice.
So technically speaking, there is a lot of detail to this. So Prabhupada is essentially told it's a method of pranayama only, in which a person, he makes the movement of vayus, the prana vayus, reverse. So Prabhupada tells about Puraka, Kumbhaka, Rechaka. Those who have done at least Anulom, Vilom, Pranayams, they may know that Uchvas, Nishvas. So this is all a part of it, in which a person holds his breath for long duration. So basically, in this particular yoga, they elongate their lifespan by increasing this period of holding the breath. So by which they elongate their lifespan. That's their basic intent. So Prabhupada says the intelligent yogi, can you read this?
The intelligent yogi is interested in attaining perfection in one life without waiting for the next. Thus, by practicing Kumbhaka yoga, the yogis increase their duration of life by many years. A Krishna consciousness person, however, being always situated in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, automatically becomes the controller of the senses.
So like this, Prabhupada compares this both. At the end, of course, he says instead of trying to stop one's eating, one should eat prasadam, and that way one can easily stop from this habit of atyahara. So basically, in this section of different yajnas, we have seen so many types of yajnas. The principle of yajna was seen in the 24th shloka. And there are different types of yajna are listed up till 29. So in this particular slide, you can see the different types of yajna. Prabhu, can you just read the highlighted part, number 1, like this?
Number 1, demigod worship.
Demigod worship. Then second,
sacrifice into Brahman.
Third,
hearing the process of and senses in the fire and mental control. Objects of senses, the fire of the senses. Ashtanga yoga, Patanjali yoga system. Charity, austerity, yoga yajna, study of scriptures. Hatha Yoga and Pranamaya.
Like this, there are around 10 which Krishna has listed. And in the further section, which we will see next, I think day after tomorrow, we are meeting, if I'm not wrong. So that time we'll see the benefits of yajna. Basically, everyone in this world has to live in the spirit of yajna. That is offering for oneself for a spiritual cause. And that's a generic principle. Different categories have, people have different yajnas. So that will be explained further. So I'm sorry for holding a little late. I think we started also late.
Prabhuji, one question, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
Prabhuji, what is the difference between the sacrifice in eightfold mysticism and the 29th Hatha Yoga and Pranayama? Are they not
So
same?
I was studying that part only. In this particular Ashtanga Yoga, it's all the 8 limbs are there. You know.
In the 29th one.
In the 29th one, that is specifically about movements of it's about reversing the movements of air.
Basically pranayam.
Yeah, that's why it's mentioned as pranayam. So Hatha Yoga is a part of Ashtanga Yoga. The first 4 limbs of Ashtanga Yoga, Yama, Niyama, Asana, and Pranayam. They are called Hatha Yoga. Okay. And but Ashtanga Yoga has further more. Actually, in 6th chapter, I will explain this more. It has more further.
Dhyana.
So that's called higher. So that's the difference. So there is details of it, but Krishna is giving the principle and taking ahead different types of things. Okay. Someone else also had a comment. We have a shloka test. I know that I'm holding you all today. Yes.
One more thing, Prabhuji. Nowadays, people are doing yoga mostly to keep themselves fit so that they can have more sense enjoyment. But will that be considered as yoga or sacrifice or not?
Yeah, it will not be considered technically as yajna. Prabhupada will say that later in purport we will see next time. Yajna without spiritual consciousness does not give spiritual result.
Okay.
It may give at max a material result, say good health, bodily, some.
It's not considered as yajna.
It cannot be called as yajna according to Bhagavadgita.
Okay.
It cannot be considered as yoga also.
Yoga, it's a question. You know.
Yoga is connection with God.
Technically, yes, you're right.
No
Yoga, yeah, you're right. Technically speaking, that's.
Prabhupada says this is all gymnastics and.
Yeah, so gymnastics, best body movements like. So it has only material result, no spiritual. So yajna should actually give spiritual result, as we were discussing earlier. No, in the next shloka, Krishna will say, what's the benefit of yajna? 30th shloka will say. So that may not be seen if we are not focusing on spiritual aspect like that. I think today was a lot more technical aspect. So we will see further in the next session. Next session is more interesting. It's about spiritual master and very nice things coming up. Thank you very much. Those devotees who had given names for shloka test, they can stay back. Others can leave. We will meet on Wednesday. Dasarash Prabhu, are you there? Yeah. We were scheduled for Wednesday evening, 6:30. If there is any change, it will be informed to all of you. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Hare
Krishna,
So
Prabhuji.
those who are for shloka test, so please stay back and you can volunteer, and we will go in that sequence quickly.
I'll just read out the name, Prabhuji. Just
Yeah. Yes. Great. Yeah. I could not find the.
no worries. I'm just pulling that out. So today it is Padma Mataji, Arvind Prabhu, Tulsi Mataji, Srinivas Ale Prabhu, Chakrapani Prabhu, and Karuna Radhika Mataji. 6 of them. Okay, Prabhu?
So please, who is going first? Yeah, who is going first? Please.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, Padma Mataji. So you should stay video on, eyes closed, and if you want the first word to be told to you, please tell. That's okay. That's not counted in marks. First word, anyway, it's fine. And further you can tell the shloka and meanings. Please start. Yes, Mataji.
I just have to tell the shloka and translation, all the 6, Prabhuji.
Yes.
Okay. So, first shloka. Karpanya dosho pahata svabhava prachamitam dharma sammoda cheta estreyasya nishchitam bruhi tanme shishyasteham sadimam tvam prapannam. So here Arjuna is saying, I'm completely lost because of, and my composure is also completely lost because of my miserly weakness. And in this condition, I'm requesting you to tell me what is good for me. I'm a surrendered soul for you. I'm your disciple now. So in this condition, please instruct me. Next shloka is second chapter 13 shloka. Dehinosmim yata dehe kaumaram yavvanam jara tata dehantara praptir dhiras tatra namuyati. So the embodied soul transfers from boyhood to youth to old age, old. In similarly, after death, it transfers from one body to the another body. A sober person is not bewildered by such change. Next, 20th shloka. Na jayate mriyate va kadachinnayam bhutva bhavitavana bhuyah ajanityaha shashvatoyam purano na hanyate hanyamane sharire. A soul neither has birth nor death. It was not into being, it does not come into being, and it will not come into being. So it is ever eternal, everlasting, and permeable. If the body is, the soul will not be slain if the body is slain. Next, 44th shloka. Bhogeshwarya prasaktanam taya pahita chetasham vyavasayatmika buddhi samadhavna vidiyate. So, if a person or soul is bewildered by material opulence or sense enjoyment, in this condition, the devotional service to the Supreme Lord does not take place. Next, third chapter 27 shloka. Prakriteya kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvasaha ahankara vimudatma kartanam iti manyate. A spirit soul who is under the influence of false ego, bewildered under the influence of false ego, thinks he is doing everything, but in actual, everything is done by the 3 modes of material nature. Fourth chapter, second shloka. Evam parampara praptam imam rajarsharo viduhu sakale nihamata yogo nashta parantapa. So the supreme science has given in the chain of disciplinic succession, and the saintly kings also understood in the same way, but in the due course of time, the succession is broken and the supreme sciences appear to be lost.
Yeah, thank you. Hare Krishna. Arvind Prabhu, are you ready?
Yes, Prabhuji, Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Okay, Prabhu. Karpanya dosho pata swabhava Ichchami tvam dharma sammoda chetaha Yachreyacham nishchitam bruhi tanme Sisyastayam sadhi mam tvam prapannam. The translation: I am confused and I lost the composure due to miserly weakness. So I would ask you to please tell me what is the best for me. I am surrendering you. I am now your disciple as a surrendered soul. Now please instruct me. The second one, Dehinosmin yata dehe kaumaram yavanam jara tata dehantara prapte dhiras tatra namuyati. As the embodied soul in this body,